All right, everybody, welcome. So today we're going to review kind of how I do my presentation for a Zoom conference. We're going to go over the financial analysis. We're also going to go over my Zoom presentation. But first and foremost, you all know it really starts off with building rapport, drawing emotion, finding out their why. And when it's case specific to a certain area, I will do a little bit of investigation online, find key points of interests, places that people generally go, fun things to do, and I'll talk about those. Or if it's from, me being from New England, Maine, New Hampshire, Massachusetts, I pretty much know everywhere. We had a vacation house in New Hampshire, we had a vacation house in Maine. So I'll just talk about, my childhood memories going up there, things like that, and just opening up the conversation. Once you start to open up the conversation, they'll just flow and they'll want to tell you their life story. There's, if I turn my camera here, there's a picture of two ships that are old ships, and they're on my wall. That's from Maine. So I'll tell them that I brought a little bit of Maine down to North Carolina, and they remember, everybody's from Maine is going to remember those two ships. It's just a point of interest where, a tourist attraction, everybody would stop. Other things like LL Beans, admit. Everybody's joining in now. Okay. So realistically, I'll do all the research. I'll find out points of interest. Then I'll talk about, after I build up a little bit of rapport, I'll talk about the why. Why are we here today? What was their thought process when filling out the form, especially if, like, say it was Tim and Tina that, on the form, and I talked to Tim, I want to find out what Tina's thought process was with filling out the form. Why is it only that 11 people are joining and then it keeps dropping off? Give me a second. I apologize. More. People, 14 people. Is anybody else getting kicked out and back in? You're on mute, Cam.
Yeah, it just happened for me.
It did.
A little bit, yeah.
And glitchy.
But I've literally heard everything you said.
Okay.
I've seen everything. Now I can't see you, but I can. And if you can hear that, that's my friend Lori's dog drinking some water. No, now I see you back. You're back, and you're back.
And I'm back.
I've heard you, and I could see you, and I can hear you perfectly the whole time.
All right. Well, I guess I'll just keep rolling and see what happens. It just seems that people keep getting kicked out, and then they're joining back in, but then somebody else will drop.
Are you recording this?
Yeah.
All right. Well, I can hear you and see you perfectly.
Okay.
So I would just roll with it.
All right. I'll just continue. So that's it. I want to talk to the wife, and I want to find out her why. I want to get what her thought process was when they filled out this form, if she even knew about it, or if it's just the husband was trying to protect her in the event of his passing. The other side would be, if I talk to the wife, what the husband's thought process was. This is going to help, when you're trying to do objections up front, because you're getting their why up front, right? And then you want to move into drawing out emotion. And so as I go through building the rapport, I get their why, then I'll stop and ask them the question. I'll say, hey, listen, Tim, let's say you passed away yesterday. You can no longer talk. Tina, what does the next 30 days look like for you? I haven't done anything yet. I haven't begun my presentation. I'm just simply trying to draw some emotion out of them, see where I stand, see how serious they are. And you'll get those objections, like, hey, we're just looking to get to the numbers, or things like that. And Nelson's joining. We're just looking to get to the numbers. And then I'll ask, well, listen, on a scale of 1 to 10, how serious are you about putting this in place? So if we do a little bit of drawing emotion, building up rapport, getting their why, you get some objections up front, you'll be able to handle them a little bit better. So when they say to you, I'm just looking for quotes, you can, you say on a scale of 1 to 10, how serious are you about putting this in place? Oh, we're at about a 5. Okay, well, now you're not going to continue with that Zoom conference. It is not worth your time to continue on for the next, 30, 40 minutes. So you want to say, well, listen, if you're just looking for quotes or you're not serious about doing this, it's not in our best interest to continue. So get a little bit bold. If you want somebody that's going to work for you, who's going to work with you, who's going to, fight with the carriers to get you approved, then I'm your guy. I work for, 18 different carriers, over 180 different plans. I'm going to do all the research for you. And if that's the type of person you're looking for, then I'm that. If not, there are many online tools that you can use to get quotes. You can get them all online. And I apologize for wasting your time. We'll just end this conversation now. So if they're not serious, don't waste your time. Okay, when you get, I tell them when you get to a 7 or an 8, well, then give me a call back. Okay. Now, after I've found out how serious they are they ready to move forward, built the emotion, built the rapport, drawn out their why, I'll give them, a preface of what this meeting is going to entail. I'll say, okay, everyone, this meeting is going to be in 3 different parts. The first part, Tim, I know we talked about this on the phone already, but the carriers require us to go over this, your medical situation, just to make sure that we have everything 100%. Okay. The last thing that we want to do is get you a decline on your medical information bureau check. And this came from Nelson Alvarez. It's just like credit cards. If you put too many applications in for credit cards, it's going to show negatively on your credit report. Well, it's kind of the same thing. So we want to make sure that we have everything 100%. So I know which carriers I can get you qualified for, and that we can continue in the manner or continue with the policies that I've already put together for you today. So the second part would be a small financial analysis. This is not meant to be intrusive. We're not going to ask you for account numbers. We're just going to do a preliminary budget. One, we want to make sure, hold on, I'm meeting some more people. One, we want to make sure that we're not over-insuring anybody. But 2, we want to make sure that it fits within your budget. There are 2 regrets when it comes to insurance. I think this was Bill Selt that said this one. There are 2 regrets when it comes to insurance. It's everybody wants that high dollar payout. Well, sometimes that high dollar payout comes with a high premium. That high premium can change your standard of living to where it becomes uncomfortable. And then you'll end up canceling the policy. And then everything that we did today, well, it's just not, it's not worth it. The other side is picking something that's too low. And when it comes time for the family to need the money, there's not enough there. So the 3 of us will work together today to put something in place that makes sense. 1, to protect your family. 2, to ultimately fit your budget. Does that sound good to you? Okay. So what did I just do? So we built rapport, we got emotion. I haven't even showed them anything yet, but I told them that we're filling out an application, right? I told them that we're going to work together to put something in place. And then I asked them, does that sound good to you? So I'm getting their okay to continue, right? That's something that you can fall back on later on when you get an objection of I need to think about it. Well, I apologize. I'm a little taken back. I thought that we were going to work on this together to put something in place that does make sense, but ultimately fits your budget. And then let them think about that, and then you can say, well, you know what? I do know that you guys have to think about this. So why don't you take the next 10 minutes? I've been talking all day, get myself a drink. Okay. That's objection handling side, but I'm not going to go through all the objections with you guys. I just really want to focus on showing you how the financial analysis and the presentation goes. You can get with your upline on the objection handling. Okay. So now, once I've stipulated that the third part, so that's the first and the second part. So we got the medical overview, we have the financial analysis that we talked about, and then I say, okay, and then the third part is simply me showing you the different products that I've put together today, and it's simple. You will choose what makes the most sense to you. Okay, does that sound reasonable? Does that sound fair? You know, these are a couple of questions that you can ask, and they say, yeah, that sounds great. All right, excellent. Let's move forward. And then I'll go through and I'll pop up. I'm going to share my screen with you now. This is my financial analysis. I've put it in the GT agency multiple times, so you guys should have access to it. You can just, you know, search through it. If anybody doesn't have it, let me know. I'll slide it over again. But so as I'm going through, here's a big part where you have medications. Okay. So this is going to continue on. So a lot of people get a lot of people's our newer agents say, do you ever get an objection to people giving you their information? Well, this kind of takes that away because we're getting them engaged. So if we start off with the medications, the milligrams, the frequency, and what it's taken for, one, we're going through and we're making sure that we have everything 100%, but two, we're keeping them engaged. So it'll make an easier transition over to the financial analysis. So we'll say, okay, Tim, I have you listed down as 5'9", 180 pounds. Your date of birth is this. You have no history of cancer, stroke, heart attack, diabetes. You are taking a blood pressure medication and you're taking a cholesterol medication. Is there anything else that you can think of that would raise a red flag when it comes to a medical information bureau check or a prescription check? No. Okay, let me enter your medications here. Hey, do you have the correct spelling of those? Oh, they might say, well, let me go get them. All right, no, not a problem. Go ahead and get them. So now we're engaging them and we're going to put in lisinopril, how many milligrams, so forth and so on. Okay. And then Tina, let's review yours. Is there anything else that you can think of that would raise a red flag when it comes to a medical information bureau check or a prescription check? Okay. And then you put hers down here. Now, I've already done their home valuation because you can go on to Zillow and type in their address and it's going to pop up what their home is worth and then what their equity or what their loan amount is. And then it's going to show that it's going to show the equity that they have in the house. And that's what you're looking to protect is the home, the equity, and one or the other from incurring the full cost of the mortgage should one or the other pass away. Now, I've added this onto my other one, but I'll just put in work here and add that line. Now I'll say, because again, this is a transition into them giving me information about their finances. I'll say, I'm sure you guys can understand what you do for work can affect the outcome of insurance, such as if you were a professional skydiving instructor versus an insurance agent who sits behind his desk. It might cost a little bit more for the insurance agent, for the skydiver than it would for the insurance agent. Does that make sense? Yes, it does. Okay. Tim, what do you do for work? And Tim says he's in maintenance. You'll write down maintenance, right? Or abbreviate it. And then Tina, what do you do for work? And Tina will say that she's an RN. Okay? And then you'll put in, Tim, what is your contribution to the household income after taxes on a monthly basis? Okay, he'll say 4,000. Okay, and then Tina, what is your contribution to the household income? 2,200. Okay, and then and then we'll move over. What is your mortgage payment monthly? It's about 1,600. Okay, and what do you think you spend on heat, hot water, and electricity? And they'll say about 350 combined. How about your cell phone bill? 150. How about your car payment? About 850 between the two. Okay. Car insurance, 185. Is that the family plan? Yes, it is. You know what's kind of funny, people, is that, and I always tell my clients this, is that when it comes to car insurance, who are we actually protecting with car insurance? And I'll ask them that question. And a lot of them will say, I'm not sure. Okay. And when they say you're not sure, well, you're protecting complete strangers from liability, their property, their vehicles, right? And you know what's funny is that we'll pay that car insurance no matter how much it is. It's our right to drive in the United States, but in order to drive, we have to have that car insurance, and we'll pay it no matter what it is. If it's $400, we'll pay it because we want to drive. And the funny thing is that we'll bark at the price of life insurance, even though we're protecting our loved ones. Kind of weird, right? It should be the other way around. We should spend any kind of money to protect our family and be upset about what we have to do to pay to protect strangers, right? And then they'll laugh. Yeah, oh, I never, or they'll even, I've actually had clients where they'll say, you know what? I never thought of it that way, but that makes 100% sense. Okay. That's when you know that you're going to be writing applications, when you have somebody that says that, right? Then I'll say, all right, food on a monthly basis. I'll make a joke, you know, especially with the prices that we have today. What do you think you spend on food? And they'll say about 400. How about your cable and internet bill? Let's say they say 185. Well, I was in telecom, and you guys can use this. But I'll say, you know, guys, I was in telecom for 22 years. That seems a little bit high on the price, especially. Do you have smart TVs at home? Yeah. Do you have cable boxes? Yes, we do. Do you know that with Spectrum or any cable company, they do 100% streaming now over smart TVs? You don't need to rent the cable boxes anymore. And it takes that cable service from $60 down to $20. So essentially, you'd only be paying $120 for, you know, the highest internet and the streaming services. Oh, really? Yeah. And then you can take that money and put it towards your insurance plan, right? Make a little joke. Okay, but it gets them thinking. I help them save money so that we can free up any money that needs to be freed up to help them protect their family. All right, credit card payments. This is a trust thing. I say, I don't need to know your total credit card debt. That is not my business. What I need to know is that if you make a monthly credit card payment, what that payment is. Oh, we put about $150. Okay, excellent. Health insurance, is that taken care of through the company, or is that, do you have to pay out of pocket? No, it's taken care of through the company. Okay, great. And again, vehicle gas, especially with the prices, right? What do you think you spend on vehicle gas monthly? Oh, it's about $400. All right, that sounds reasonable. $100 a week. Okay. Are there any miscellaneous bills? Anything that I'm not thinking of? Any memberships, any loans that you have, any other insurance plans? Do you have anything else that will offset? Now, this is that safe money question, right? That Jared is always talking about to find annuities or annuity monies or money that, you know, 401ks, things like that. Do you have anything else to offset the mortgage, other insurance plans, an old 401k, an old Roth IRA, anything at all? Well, yeah, we spend about $117 on a insurance policy. Okay, great. What's the death benefit on that? $100,000. Now I know that they have a $100,000 life insurance policy, and I'll say, what did you have that designed for? Oh, that was designed just in case I die, that she has some income. Great. So income after the fact. So we have that assigned already. And then the husband, Tim, do you have anything? Yes, I have a $25,000 one. I'm sure you had that designed for burial services, maybe a little credit card debt. Yep. Okay. And we put down bury, right? Now we've assigned a purpose to those policies. So that way they can't come back and say, well, you know what? We already have life insurance policies. We're fine. That's the objection that you'll get at the end, unless you assign a purpose to the ones that they currently have. And now you know that they're paying $117,000 for $100,000 in policy. Now, how long ago did you take that out? Oh, about 2 years ago. And just write it down. Okay. Now, Tina, I want to do something here, Tina. I want to take away Tim's money. I know I asked you when we first started talking, I asked you what your next 30 days look like if Tim were to pass away, but I want to show you what your next 30 days will look like when Tim passes away. Let's take out his money. Okay. Do you see what just happened there? It changed to the red. You are now negative $2,187. You're going to lose that house. Okay. Now, Tim, let's take out Tina's money. That puts you negative $387 a month in the hole. You might be a little bit better off than she is, but we still got to find something to protect you. And it might make more sense to put a little higher policy on you, Tim, to protect Tina than on Tina to protect you. So keep that in mind, because we want to make sure that it does fit the budget. We want to make sure that we're not changing your standard of living. Okay. Does that make sense? That makes sense. Great. And it looks like you guys have about $1,800 left over at the end of every month Would you agree to that? Well, yeah, yeah, I know it sounds good on paper, doesn't it? Okay, but in reality, why don't we do this? Why don't we shave off another $200 or $300? Let's call it $1,500 for incidentals, things that we're not thinking about, Christmases, birthdays, going out to dinners, right? So 1,500 sounds about right. Yeah, that sounds about right. Great. So we have something to put towards it. All right. But again, we don't want to change your standard of living. And then you do have some life insurance, but we already have a purpose for that. I'm going to move this off to the side for now. Okay. We'll go back to that if we need to go back to that. Okay. Sound good? Sounds great. All right. Can you see my form here? Yes, I can. Excellent. So who we are is a coalition of agents who work directly for the carriers in the areas of mortgage protection, senior benefits, end-of-life preparation, and safe money retirement planning. Now, I wanted to show you guys kind of how I do this. All right, so here's a mortgage protection. I don't know if you guys use this, but what I do is I have all my leads in a file. Oh, that over here. Okay, and we'll just pull up this one here. Okay, so then I will minimize it down by using the minus sign. I'll go to the snipping tool on Windows, hit new, then I can drag this. Okay, pops up a new window with what I just copied. I hit Control A for all, Control C for copy. Now I'll go back to my presentation. Now I just wanted to show you guys, I have this set up when I'm doing the Zoom, it'll already be on there, but I wanted to show you guys how I do it. Now click on the screen, hit Control V. All right, that puts it up there. So now we can just take that and adjust it to the screen size and make it look a little bit nice. Okay, now, so I'll move to the next slide and I'll say, and this is the form that you originally filled out. This is what prompts me to give you the call. Could you just verify that that's the form that you fill out? Again, we're engaging them. Okay, we're asking them to perform a function during this instead of us just going blah, 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 right? You're going to lose them. You want to keep them engaged. So every single step along the way, you want to make sure that you're keeping them engaged. And then you're telling stories. You're giving them, the logic. So it is an emotional sale backed by logic, but you want to make sure that it has a spot in every single part of your presentation. Okay. Now, a little bit about me. I'm Massachusetts born and raised. If I'm going to be your insurance agent for the rest of my life anyway, I want to make sure that you guys know a little bit about me. Massachusetts born and raised. I've lived in North Carolina for 5 years. I'm one of 7 kids. I have 2 beautiful daughters, ages 5 and 26. And then I'll make a joke because their age gap is so big. I'll say, don't ask, life decisions, right? And it gets them to make a joke, but it also opens up, especially people that have blended families. They'll, well, ours are this old and we have 18 kids, grandchildren, and she's got 3 kids, I have 5 kids. And so it gets them to open up a little bit. I was in telecommunications before I switched to insurance. I was in telecommunications for 20 years before I switched to insurance. And the reason I switched to insurance, guys, is because this actually happened to our family. What we're talking about today happened to us. My grandfather, he got diagnosed with stage 4 cancer, and he fought it for 1.5 years. Now you see how my tone comes down. You see how I'm changing my pitch. You see how the emotions changing because this story is deep, right? And he fought it for 1.5 years. Now he was an old school Marine. He didn't believe in life insurance, and when he went, he thought that he was okay with what he built with his own 2 hands, his pension, his 401k, and his savings. Well, when he was diagnosed and fought it for 1.5 years, they exhausted all of their funds on his chemotherapy, his hospital stays, doctor's visits, okay, to the point where he left my grandmother with absolutely nothing when he passed away. Okay, so the bank doesn't care what happens. And they don't care to the point where they showed up at her home. Okay, 3 people showed up at her home. That was the sheriff, the bank manager, and the moving company. The sheriff escorted her out of the house onto the front lawn in front of all of her neighbors. Very embarrassing. And then the moving company took everything out of her home and put it on the front lawn, and they locked the door. That was the last time she saw the inside of the home. That was a $500,000 home on a private lake in New Hampshire that ended up going for $175,000 at auction. Okay. Think about that. Think about that equity. Think about that $300,000 that was inheritance money. Okay. That should have gone to us. But also think about all those childhood memories that we had. I mean, that's where I learned to water ski, snow ski, dirt bike ride. I was planning on taking my kids there. And now it's somebody else's dream. Okay. So, you know, we all buy a home because it has so much value to it, but ultimately we're trying to build a legacy for our family. And I want to thank you guys for letting me be part of this today to help protect yours. And I can guarantee you now that everybody in my family has insurance, especially after what we went through with my grandparents. You know, we were those people, I'm sure you've seen it on social media where people are posting up GoFundMe pages. Well, GoFundMe is not an adequate life insurance. So thank you again for letting me be part of this. Let's move on, okay? So you see how I took that emotion, I told that story. It was very personal, very deep, getting them to think, okay? But then I say, okay, let's move on. And now we're going to go into a little bit more fun. And I'll say, okay, this is a little bit more for fun. That's my little one on either side. That's my oldest daughter in the middle. And I'll usually get, you have a beautiful family. Oh my goodness, look at those cheeks. She's so beautiful. Both your kids are amazing. Thank you very much. Okay, great. Moving on. What is mortgage protection life insurance? This is designed to pay off your home when you die, covering due to death, illness, or accident, or at least give your family options to protect the equity in the home. I add that, okay? It says here, you choose where the money's allocated. That means you and your beneficiary will get to choose where that money's allocated. I'm going to talk about your beneficiary right now. I'm going to talk about you and how you have access to this in just a minute. But your beneficiary will have this money come direct to them should you pass away, covering due to death. Covering untouched by the government, untouched by creditors, and untouched by probate court. Okay, I'm sure you guys know that when you pass away, everything gets locked into probate court, right? We know that. Okay, great. Well, I'll give you another story because this happened to me. I was renting for the last 5 years. Okay. And before I purchased my home last year, but I didn't see a need to because my landlord was charging me only $900 a month. So it didn't seem, why would I want to go out and spend $2,000 on buying a home when I was paying $900 for a 2,000 square foot home with a garage and a back porch and 3 bedrooms. It didn't make sense to go out and buy one just yet. But my landlord, he was 48 years old and he was in the medical profession. You remember everybody in the medical profession was mandated to take the vaccine when COVID first came out. Well, he got his second shot and his second vaccination, and he was rushed to the hospital. They had to perform open heart surgery on him, and he died on the table. I was a 48-year-old doctor who did not have life insurance. That is like a chef that won't taste his own food, right? And they say, yeah, right. Oh my goodness, I can't believe, I'm sorry. Yeah, and he left his 26-year-old daughter as the executor of his estate. He had 3 homes. He was a doctor. He made a good amount of money, but he was trying to open up a practice as well. So he had a lot of his money tied up in those investments. So it took 8 months for them to figure out his debt to asset ratio. And she had to pay for that 8 months, the mortgage on all 3 homes that he had. The vacation home in Atlantic Beach, the home that I was renting, and his main home. So she had to ask me to move out so that they could sell that home and get some of the equity in that home to help pay off of his debt. It still wasn't enough. The main home got foreclosed on. She had to short sale the home out on the beach and the one that I was living in, and she still owes on his debt. think about that position. I'm glad we are getting together today, guys, to make sure that your family doesn't have to go through that. Now, it's transferable. It follows you and not the mortgage. That means if you sell that home, buy a new home, you'll still have the policy in place, okay? The death benefit will never change and the premium will always stay the same during the duration of the policy. I say that because we're either doing term or we're either doing whole life, smart, universal life. So I'll say during the duration of the policy. So if it's a healthy people, I'm doing term products, I'll go 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay. But if it's somebody that I'm doing mortgage payment protection, that's when I'll move into this sixth one, saying we're also looking for coverage available for 6, 12, 24 months or more of mortgage payments. So that'll give your family the time to decide what to do with that home, protecting the equity in the home, and the equity will be a backup insurance plan. Okay, does that sound fair? That sounds fair. Great. Okay, so let's move forward. Some of the companies that we work with, okay, Americo, Aflac, CVS, Aetna, Mutual of Omaha, Transamerica, Gerber Life. You see how I did the brand names recognition that everybody's going to know: CVS, Aetna, Gerber Life, Transamerica, Mutual of Omaha, Aflac. And then I'll go Americo, Foresters Financial, Great Western. So just to name a few. They're all A+ rated companies. They have over billions of dollars to make sure that your family is protected, right? You've heard of those before? Oh yeah, we've heard of them. Excellent. All right. Now, when it comes to the living benefits portion, you know, Tim and Tina, we just talked about how that money would come to your beneficiary, but this has living benefits to it. Okay, let's talk about that for a minute. Okay, some companies only offer critical illness, some only offer chronic illness, and some only offer terminal illness. Well, the company that we're going with today is Americo, and they offer all three. Isn't that amazing? So what that means for you is that in the event, and I'll have this up here, okay, so everybody can see this. You can just type in the 6 activities of daily living. So I have this on my screen on the side just to remind myself and keep my pattern going, okay? But it's on the other screen where you can't see it, they can't see it, but it's giving the 6 activities of daily living, right? So I'll say, what does this mean for you guys? That means, you know what, Tim, could you do me a favor? Could you read the critical illness to Tina? What am I doing? I'm engaging them again, right? Instead of breaking up the monotony of me speaking all the time. So Tim will read off, allows you to take up to 100% of your policy's death benefit if you're diagnosed with ALS, life-threatening cancer, kidney failure, heart attack, major organ failure, stroke. Tim, if you were to have a heart attack, it's just like car insurance when I say filing a claim. You know how you get into a car accident and you have to call and file the claim. The insurance company will call the mechanic. How much does it cost to fix? And then they'll send the money to fix the car. It's kind of the same principle. So if you have a heart attack and you can't work and you need emergency funds to maintain your standard of living, paying your mortgage, paying medical bills, whatever you need it for, that emergency funds, it's kind of the same principle. You will call up the insurance company, file the claim. They'll call the doctors. How much time have you been in the policy versus how severe it was? And then they'll allot you a certain percentage. And it's up to you on which percentage that you'd like to take. So if they say to you, you guys can have 50%, and you say, I only need 25% to get by. Because remember this, guys, if it was a $100,000 policy, all right, we're just using round numbers, and you took out 25,000, that leaves 75,000 in death benefit for your family. So we'll deplete off of the policy face value. Does that make sense? That makes sense. Okay, great. And then chronic illness. This allows you to take up to 100% of the policy's 100% of the policy's death benefit if you are unable to perform 2 out of the 6 activities of daily living or suffer severe cognitive impairment. But I'll turn to Tina and have her read that. I'll say, Tina, can you read chronic illness to Tim? And now I'll explain it. Okay, so that means if you cannot perform 2 of the 6 functions without assistance, you can now draw up to 100% lump sum of your policy's death benefit. And that's bathing, getting dressed, eating, the ability to sit, stand, or walk, the ability to control bladder and bowel functions, and the ability to get on and off the toilet. So that's kind of like your disability side. Let's say you got into a car accident and you couldn't walk and you couldn't shower on your own, you can now file a claim. If you had a slip and fall at work and hurt your back. So you can see how it's kind of a vague statement because it lets you kind of mix and match the pieces together. What can't you do? 2 of them. You can now draw off of your own policy to help make sure that you can pay your mortgage and stay in your home. And then terminal illness, that allows you to advance up to 100% of the policy's death benefit if you're diagnosed with a terminal illness and a life expectancy of 12 months or less. So like my grandfather, right, Tim, Tina, he could have turned around and said to my grandmother, I have 11 months to live. Let's take that money out now and make sure you're okay before I go. So do you see how my stories are still transitioning into my presentation? It's coming full circle, okay? It's keeping that emotion going, keeping them engaged the whole entire way, okay? All right, how does that sound to you guys? How am I doing so far? I pause here. This was another Nelsonism, I call it. You stop here and you ask them, how am I doing so far? Right? Any questions that you have? No, we're good. We're good. Did I explain everything correctly? Yeah, you explained everything perfectly. No doubt at all on any of those benefits that we just talked about? No. All right. So the next thing we're going to do now is we're going to move into how I have designed these options for you. That we're going to talk about a couple of different ways to protect you. It's just, again, I'll fall back to the car insurance. It's kind of like car insurance. This is another Nelsonism. And that is, you know, when you get car insurance, you have liability, you have comprehensive, and you have glass coverage. So I want to show you every which way you qualify, okay? Especially because you're in the age bracket where 67% of people in the United States pass away from accidents versus natural causes, right? You guys are young and healthy. If you were to pass away in the next handful to 15 years from now, it most likely would be an accident versus natural causes. Wouldn't you agree? Yeah, we'd agree. Great. So it might make a little bit more sense to double up on that accidental coverage, right? And this is why I sell to every single client that qualifies age-wise for a accidental policy, I'm adding another one. And that's an additional, like Van Barnett said on the phone the other day, because he's the one that was yelling at me to do this, you know, get my health license. So I could do Mutual of Omaha. If they're over 60 to 70, you can write Mutual of Omaha. Under 60, you can write Americo ADB. So that's kind of where I go, is Americo ADB is my go-to, unless they're over 60 years old, in which case I'll go with Mutual of Omaha. But you need your health license to write Mutual of Omaha. And the accidental policies will add about $30,000. If you're a 20K producer or more, it'll add $30,000 to your income, okay, every year. So it's pretty amazing. So now I'll say, okay, listen, I show you the maximum. That doesn't mean that you have to choose the maximum. And this will cover any type of accident. Remember that, you know, if you're involved in an accident with work, you're in maintenance, Tim, you know, it's a kind of a dangerous job. You got machinery. What happens if something happens at work? You're driving to work. So any type of accident that doesn't involve, you know, it's not self-induced, meaning that you cannot be in the act of a felony. You cannot be committing suicide felony, suicide, or under the influence. Okay, you can't be under the influence either. But any other type of accident, it'll cover. So I show you the maximums: 30 years, 250,000 for 48, 30,000, a 30 year, 150,000 for 35, 100,000 for $27. Now, I do things differently. Again, check with your upline. I'm going to tell you how I do it. But what I would say is I take a look at their mortgage. And if he's got 126, like this guy here has a $126,000 mortgage, I'll say, all right, Tim, listen, what I think, and now again, you can pick whichever one you want, but what makes the most sense to me is the 100,000, okay, at $27. Now, again, it's completely up to you on what you choose. If you think you need more, it's really, Tina, it depends upon, okay, if Tim passes away, how much money do you think you need? And then let's go with that. But I'm thinking that 100,000 is going to make sense to you in just a minute. Let me show you your main policy, okay? And now I'll move into the main policy. Now, but the thing is, I have a different slide for Tim, Tina on both accidental policies. And then I'll have separate slides for Tim and Tina on their main policy. So I'm showing them 4 total slides for each 4 policies, because we'll be writing 4 policies. And that's that confidence that I have in my capabilities. I know we're writing 4 policies once I get to this portion, right? Now, that said, I'll go through and I'll say, this here may be the nice shiny penny that everybody wants. Remember, we talked about that high dollar payout, but that sometimes that high dollar payout comes with a high premium, $200. It might change your standard of living to where it becomes uncomfortable. Again, you can choose it if you think you can afford it. But again, we want to work together to make sure that we're putting something that makes sense. Here's what I think makes sense. You have a $128,000 mortgage. A lot of our clients choose this middle option. It's $150,000, but it's also going to have an additional attachment of accidental for $37,500. So if you passed away of an accident, you're going to get the other policy we just talked about and this one. It'll be $287,000 combined. That's going to take care of the home, burial services, a little income after the fact. It's going to take care of all your debt. All in one shot. Does that make sense? That does make sense. Now, if it was natural causes, it's going to be $150,000. Your mortgage is $128,000, so it's still going to cover that. Oh yeah, that sounds good. Now, our basic plan, okay, if you were to pass away of an accident with both policies, it's going to be $162,000. Your mortgage is $128,000. So it's still going to take care of it if you passed away of an accident. And let's face it, you are at the age bracket where 67% of people in the United States pass away of accidents versus natural causes, right? Yes. Okay. But let's say 15 years from now, you pass away of, natural causes. But your mortgage is already paid down by half, right? So maybe that makes a little bit more sense too, because if you passed away of natural causes, especially for your budget, what are your guys' thoughts? And then stop and let them answer your question. Okay. I'm going to stop sharing now. And I see, let's see, chat. What if they say they can't afford it at the end? Like, I wasn't doing objection handling. I was just kind of showing my presentation. If you would like for me to do that, what I would do, I'll just share my screen again and share my screen. Now they say they can't afford it at the end. Well, you know what we do? We go back to this. I'm sorry, I apologize. I mean, we already said that we agreed that we had a budget of $1,500, right? So even if we take this basic plan, and we can always adjust from here, right? If we take this basic plan, let me kind of take a look at what that would be. All right, for you, Tim, it's going to be, if we did the accidental, it's $27. If we did $57.33, okay, we're looking at about 80 something dollars, right? For round numbers, 80 something dollars. Now that 80 something dollars is not going to put you out of house and home. You have a budget of $1,500. But if I was to drop off $162,000 to your wife, wouldn't that change her standard of living? Yeah, well, that makes sense. There is no guy in this world that wants to turn to his wife in a meeting and go, I'm sorry, I'm cheap. So you have to do it for him. Okay? You have to do it for them. If you get that objection of this, we just can't afford this. Now dumb it down, bring it down to the minimum and say, we can always adjust it from there. Why don't we start with the minimum? And then, and if you guys find, I know you just moved in, I know you got a lot of bills, I know you got a lot of things going on, but let's start off with the minimum. Something is better than nothing, right? And we don't buy insurance for what could happen 30 years from now. We buy it for what could happen tomorrow. Tim, we just went over, and let me bring this back again, Tim. We just went over, if we take, you just died yesterday, let's take away your amount of money. She is now $2,187 in the hole every month. She is going to lose that house, Tim, if you pass away. Let's get something in place for her to make sure that she has choices. Yeah, the basics sounds good. All right, let's move forward. What's your middle initial? All right. Thanks, buddy. All right. Lake was just being nice. All right. Anybody else have any questions? Do the whole raise the hand thing and go over anything else?
Had a question.
What's that?
Diane Crump had a question. She had her hand.
Oh, go ahead, Diane.
Yes, I'm wondering why you dropped so low for the basic.
It's the way I work it and the way that we're told to work it is you want to go full mortgage, half mortgage, quarter mortgage.
Well, quarter would have been 75,000, so I'm wondering
What did I put down? Oh,
50.
so I went down to the minimum. I usually do 50,000. So if it's I did 200, 150 and 50, right?
See, we had a training from late.
That was just one that I was playing with. So it's really, I mean,
Okay.
stick with what your upline tells you, which is full mortgage, half mortgage, quarter mortgage.
Quarter, okay,
Yep.
okay.
And then, ultimately it's got to be within 10% of their mortgage. Their payment should be within 10% of what their mortgage payment is. Okay. It's kind of where you want to be around. Any other questions? Did this help out everybody?
Yes, thank you.
Welcome.
When you're doing FPP,
Yeah, for
how
sure.
do you, with those payments are usually a lot higher. Do you have a way that you make them understand what they're doing?
For which one?
Like if you have an older couple with health
Oh,
issues.
for mortgage payment protection?
Yeah,
Okay, so I have a story for that, and because I just had a client. So, but I do it in the beginning. I don't want to just show them numbers. I want to preface. I want to let them know that what we're doing today. And this I think this belief comes from Jared or Nelson. They say in the beginning of your presentation, you want to start off by saying, I think it was Jared that said this. There's three ways that we normally protect a person. One of them is mortgage protection, and that's going after the full amount. Okay. But when you get into your 50s, 60s, and 70s, it gets to be very expensive. And then when you start adding on any type of medications or ailments, it gets to be even more expensive. So that might be out of the question. And then the other portion that we use is accidental. But unfortunately, at the age of 74 years old, you don't qualify for that. So what we're going to do is move into our most popular product. So we're putting an emphasis on it because we believe in it, right? The most popular product, which is mortgage payment protection. This is giving 6 months, 12 months, 18 months worth of mortgage payments to decide what to do with the home, and then ask them, Tina, if Tim passed away yesterday, what do you think you'd do with the home? Well, I don't think I could afford it on my own, so I'll probably sell it. Or I'm going to have family members move in. Or I'm going to sell it, get the equity, and move in with my family members. They're going to tell you what they're going to do with it, right? So great. So what we want to do is make sure you have enough payments to decide what to do with the home while protecting the equity. Okay. Because when he passes away, everything's going to get locked in probate court, and you're going to need some money to be able to put towards that mortgage so the bank doesn't come and take it. Okay. So that's what we're going to look and keep that in mind when we go over your policies. We're going to talk about mortgage payment protection. Okay. Sound good? Sounds good. All right. And then move on with your presentation. So you did that in the front. So now you're letting them know that you're giving them something to expect. Now, when I get to more closer to that portion, I'm going to tell them a story that just happened to me, because I wrote a gentleman who was 70 years old. I wrote him in July. He died in September of last year. Okay. So July to September, it was only $3,000, but that beneficiary called me and said, thank you so much. I know that my brother is stubborn and he probably didn't want to do this. And you have to be some kind of person to be able to talk Herbert, and Herbert Elledge, HE is what they call him, to be able to talk HE into doing this. You had to be something special, but I thank you for doing it, because that $3,000 is the difference between us losing the equity in the home or saving that home. So thank you so much. And he came to tears on the phone when I was talking to him. So I tell that story to the clients that I'm dealing with, because 3,000 may not seem like a lot, but when life situations change, it is a lot. Okay. Go ahead, Ruben.
Hey, Mark.
Yeah.
Hello.
Hey, I just want to say you're doing a stupendous job here. I am blown away by your thoroughness and every detail you're putting to the attention of making sure everybody knows what they're learning from you. I couldn't be prouder of watching you who just came on board, mastered this skill. So just wanted to add one more thing. When you're doing this mortgage payment protection, something that I got away from, and for some reason, something you said reminded me. I not only talk to them about giving someone enough time to pay off the mortgage or to make payments to keep the bank off their back, I also highlight the fact that most properties go up in value year after year after year, right? So I tell them, what do you think your home is going to go up? On average in America, most homes go up, what, 12.5%, Mark?
Yep.
So just do a quick analysis for them. If your house is 100,000 now, add 12.5%, or add 12%, 12%, 12%. 10 years from now, if something happens, look how much equity your wife could lose if she doesn't have enough time to put the house on the market. That has gotten me a lot of sales when I project forward how much more equity they'll have, because they're thinking the equity right now. But what about the equity in 5 or 10 years from now? Wouldn't you like to know she has enough time to pull that out? That's saving you money on buying more insurance, isn't it? So I wanted to add that part to the MPP.
Now, the other side that I want to add is when you come to the end and you say, you know, which do you, what do you guys think? What makes the most sense to you? Then if they say, well, we need to think about it, that's when I will use, and I got this from another agent. I don't know who to give credit to this one. I just heard it on the phone, which was, you know what? I've been talking all day. I understand you guys need to think about it. So let me do this. Let me go take 10 minutes. I'm going to get myself a drink. My phone's been blowing up. I'm going to go make a couple of calls. Why don't you guys go ahead and talk about it? When I come back, just let me know what we're moving forward with, and we'll start filling out the application for the pre-approval process. Remember, we still got to get you approved. So I know that you've thought about this already prior when you filled out the form. I know you've been thinking about this the whole entire time that we've been doing this presentation. But even if you guys took a week, 2 weeks to think about it, we still have to get you approved. So why don't we go through the approval process first? Go ahead and think about that. I'll be back in a little bit. Okay? Sounds good? Sounds good. I'm going to put you guys on mute, and I'll step it away, and I'll put them on mute. Doesn't mean that I still can't hear them. That's all I'll say. Okay? So I go, all right. And then when I come back, okay, what did we decide? What are we going with? Not, you know, you're not going to ask them, okay, do you guys really want this? Or, you know, things like that. You say, okay, what are we going with? And just be assertive, be assumptive. Ruben, go ahead.
Hey, Mark.
Yeah, buddy.
Okay, so say we're doing the MPP route, and you know, a lot of the clients, I know for me anyways, I don't know if you guys get the same feedback, but when you're signing them up for this coverage, they're assuming that this goes straight to the bank. You know, so they think it's mortgage protection, it's tied to the bank, and
Yeah. So
stuff like that. So when you're doing that and you're explaining to them the MPP, and then you're explaining that they're only going to get 5,000, 3,000, 8,000, and they're like, so this is life insurance, and they kind of figure that it's just life insurance, and they're like, oh, I got a pension, or I already have life insurance, or she'll be all right because I got a 401k, or, you know, like, what do you do in that situation?
So, Ruben, I've already taken those objections away by doing a financial analysis. I've already assigned purpose with their 401k, their old 401ks, or their other life insurances that they have. I've already taken that out of the way. And so if they say at the end, they say that, I'm like, oh, hold on a second, guys. You had that 25,000 that was meant for burial services. You don't want that 25,000 to go to the mortgage. Either way, she's still going to have to come up with 25,000 out of her own pocket for your burial services, right? But when I got to that certain section, we'll go back to it. Let me share my screen again. when we're going over this section here, the what is mortgage protection, we're letting them know, okay? Your beneficiary gets to choose where that money's allocated, right? So that means the money's going to come directly to them. They get to decide, do I make a lump sum payment or do I put it in the bank and make monthly payments while protecting the equity in the home and deciding what to do with the home? Ultimately, that equity is going to be the backup insurance plan. So my statements will differ if I'm doing MPP for mortgage payment protection or just mortgage protection. And then I'll switch over and add to this coverage available for 6 months, 12 months, 24 months. Let's work together to put something in place that does make sense to protect that equity. Does that sound fair? That sounds fair. But I've done that in the beginning, right? So when I get to the end, I'm not going to have those issues. Everything, and this is, again, a Nelsonism, Lake Bellavance teaches this, handle the objections up front. Don't rush in to get the numbers out to them to say, hurry up and pick one. You need to have that emotion. You need to gain their trust. You build the rapport, right? Explain everything, all the objection handling up front, so that at the end, what's your middle initial? That's ultimately the goal that we're trying to get to, right? Instead of having to go, well, what about this? And what about that? And 30 years from now is what we don't buy insurance for 30 years from now. We're not trying to do all this objection handling at the end. We're trying to make sure that all the way through the presentation, we're taking that doubt of why they need this, why they should sign up for it today, and why I'm the person that they need to sign with. Okay.
All right, thanks.
You got it, Diane?
So do you do the financial analysis with every single client?
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
Yes, I do. And if they're single, just looking to protect their kids, I do it as well. And I'll change it up a little bit there by just saying that, listen, if you passed away, your child loses all of the income. Therefore, they're not going to keep that house. They're not going to be able. Now, we don't know. They're 18 right now, or they're 13. By the time you pass away, maybe they'll be 18. You want to keep them in that house, right? But if they lose all of your income, that house is gone. And then everything, that legacy money that you're trying to build for them. And then I'll say, but I get it, man, because I'm doing the same thing. I'm a single dad, right? I have a kid, my daughter. I bought this house to build a legacy for her. So I get what you're trying to do with protecting her, making sure she doesn't lose that home. I'm with you. I have 2 policies, and they'll get them thinking. Okay. So any other questions?
I don't have a question, but I was wondering if you can reshare the financial analysis Excel sheet, because that's amazing.
Yeah. Let me,
And also thank you so much for taking the time to do this.
not a problem. All right, desktop,
Okay.
client worksheet. Do any of the other leaders that are on want to add anything?
Andrea asked a question in chat.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah,
Andrew.
she said, how would you handle clients who don't want to give their income to you?
I'll say, do you see this address? No, I'm just kidding. So let me just drop this in the chat real quick. And I'm just going to throw one of them in there and hit enter. Okay. Now, when they say, well, I'm not giving you that information, I don't think you need. No, that's not a problem. Listen, we don't have to do that. Okay. I get it. It's a little personal, but as an insurance advisor, what I do is I work with you. So I'm not just throwing out quotes. I could give you 180 quotes. That wouldn't make sense, right? So what I want to do is I want to tailor this to fit your needs. In order for me to tailor this to fit your needs, I kind of have to know what we're working with. Does that make sense? So if you want someone to go to work for you and make sure that this is tailored, Nelsonism, tailored to your specific needs, then I'm your guy. Okay. But listen, we don't have to go through it. Now, if I'm already gotten through all the other stuff and I'm at that point and they don't want to do it, I've already gone through the whole, how serious are you putting this in place, a scale of 1 to 10, you know, things like that. So that said, I will just continue on with it. And if I get them, I get them. If I don't, I don't. Right. But there are some that if I don't end up going over it, I'm still able to show that emotion, tell those stories, make them think through the rest of the presentation to get them to say, yeah, it makes sense. Let's go ahead and sign up, you know? So does it, but I haven't had, since the way that I say it, okay? The way that I say it, which is, this is not meant to be intrusive. I'm not going to ask you for account numbers. We're just doing a preliminary budget to make sure that, one, we're not over-insuring anybody, but two, to make sure that does fit within your budget, okay? And then we start off with the medications, filling that out and keeping them engaged. Then we move over to their work, and then we talk about their income, and then we start talking about their bills, okay? That all makes sense? Any other question? Ruben, do you have another question? Anybody else?
I do.
Go ahead.
So have you ever done the financial analysis and found out that they don't have any extra funds?
Yes, but here's the thing. When you're doing a financial analysis with a total stranger, you're not giving them everything, right? So 9 times out of 10, they're not telling you 100% of the truth, right? They're going to omit certain incomes that they have. And when I've gone through that, they still purchase a policy. They still go, but I'll gear it towards a minimum. I'll say, okay, now our budget's a little tight, okay? So maybe the full amount of the mortgage protection will not make sense for your budget. So let's tailor it down a little bit less. Let's get you some coverage. Something is better than nothing. You guys got to understand that this is not about AP count.
Right.
Okay, none of this is about AP count. It is about protecting families, serving families, and making sure that they have some type of options and protection to protect their home and their family. It's not about AP count. I could care less if they choose high, low, medium. I just want them to get covered. That's it. So I will tailor it with them to make sure that it does fit with their budget. So that way they're not canceling it 6 months later. All right. They're not. My retention, I think I've had this whole year, this whole last year, I think I had maybe 10 policies cancel out of the whole entire year. So really not that bad at all. And that's because of how that I do this and how I make sure that it is tailored to their budget and get them to think and make sure that the protection they're putting in place makes sense for their family. Okay. Any other questions? I see Kim talking.
Yeah, I actually do have a question. So, when you originally you're like $50,000 above their mortgage and like their mortgage is in the middle and like below. Can you
What's that?
talk about, you said, you give them the 3 choices, right?
Yep.
So you're gonna go with their mortgage payoff.
The full mortgage, half the mortgage. But when I do it, so this, I was just tinkering around with this slide, but usually, let me show you what it looks like. I think I have another client that I just had. All right, let me share this one.
Can you also
Okay. So
then-
this was a client that I just wrote, okay? And the mortgage is 182,000. Okay, so I show the full amount, no accidental, just the full amount, because you can see it's $186.77. Okay, now I show about half the mortgage, which is 100,000, but I added accidental of 100,000 for 200,000 total at 115, and then I do 50-50 for 100, which is again about half the mortgage. Okay, so half mortgage full with this accidental and gives them full, and then I do a quarter and a quarter, which gives them half. All right, which is still going to give them options. So I'll explain to them. Here's the nice shiny penny that everybody wants, is that high dollar payout. but sometimes that high dollar payout is a little costly. That's $186.77. Here's what a lot of our clients pick. Okay, this makes a little bit more sense because you guys are healthy. All right, if you were to pass away in the next handful to 15 years from now, it most likely would be an accident versus natural causes, right? Yeah, you're right. Okay, so then if you pass away of an accident, they get this 100,000 and they get this 100,000 for 200,000, taking care of the full mortgage and maybe a little burial services. 115.67, and that fits your mortgage, fits your budget a little bit more easily, correct? Yeah, it does. Okay, and then this last option is to give them options, making sure that they have enough money to decide what to do with the home. But let's say you passed away of an accident, it's still 100,000. That takes care of half the mortgage, right? But if it's natural causes, it'd be 50,000. Okay. But I also have that accidental. Okay.
Yep.
So that adds, so it would actually be 300,000. And then, so you can see it's 187.77. They look at it and go, okay, well, 115, yeah, that fits better. Okay, and then they just added on another $27, so I'm a little back up to the closer to that 187 anyway. It's all about perception to the client. $27 is cheap, right? And then 115.87, well, that makes sense for their budget. Now you add the two together and you're at, you know, $160 anyway, right?
Good.
So it's all about perception.
I like that. And then
Any
you
other
went into like how you pivoted to like you've got like I love your friggin' peasant like all that like and then you've got all right boom you've already got a slide together when you pivot.
Yeah, and then so the other thing is like I'll take a look. Let's say that they're a young couple. All right, I'll go over this again, share my screen with you. Let's say they're a young couple, and you can see here that I have CBO prepared, right? And I got this. So my first go-to ADB, CBO, and CBO. But then I'll have Forrester's term on backup. Okay. So if their budget is not going to fit a CBO product, if their budget during that financial analysis, you can see that their budget isn't going to fit that CBO product, you might not want to show it to them. You might want to pivot while you're in the middle of your presentation. When you're up here talking about this, you've already gone through the financial analysis. You know you're not going to talk about the CBO. You just click on slide 13 to go over. You know, you just memorize where your slide is, and you just go right into the term, Forrester's term. You know, so because you can see that it's a big difference. $69 for Aretha there and $115. But I'm going to show them and I'm going to say to them, here's the best product out there in the United States, right? This is 100% the product you want to be in. Why? Because you are healthy. You are healthy, so you qualify for this. And why is it the best product? Because it's going to give you 100% of your cash back. That means if you were to pass away, if you weren't to pass away in 30 years, you'll get 100% return on your investment. Plus, you'll have access up to 100% of the policy's death benefit if you come down with a chronic illness, critical illness, or terminal illness. Now, the best product is not necessarily the cheapest. Okay, so if this doesn't fit for you guys, please let me know. I have other products. That way, we're not just showing them 3 products and saying, pick one, that's it, right? But whenever I show the CBO, I have never personally had someone go, that's too expensive, because they want their money back. And I say, you know, when you have a regular term product, you're just renting your insurance. Okay, you're going to pay all that money, and in 30 years, it's over and you get no money back. But with this product, you own your insurance, because you're going to spend, let's just do this one here, $115, and I'll bring up the calculator, right in front of them. Okay. 115 multiplied by 12 for 1 year, multiplied by 30 years. So that's $41,000 that you would have paid for your insurance.
Always.
Okay. But if you don't pass away in 30 years, that's a forced savings account and you got your insurance for free. $41,000 being returned to you. Now you can take that money, go to Vegas and drop it on red. No, I'm just kidding. Don't do that. So you see what I'm saying? Like, it's just, and they go, wow, that's amazing. So I make a little joke of it. And I'll say, but no, you can take that 41,000 and you can reinvest it into a paid up insurance plan if need be. Okay. And on the CBO slide, I also include how much they will get back at the end. Thank you, Stephanie. We just covered that. All right. Any other questions? I know this has gone over.
I want to know what Stephanie said. What?
Oh, it's in her comments. She said that she includes how much they'll actually get back. And it does. It makes them say, oh, wow. You know?
I include somebody will have to remind me at that age to claim my money because I might have Alzheimer's or something. But anyway, I'm like, yeah, somebody might have to remind me, but I might go to Vegas on that.
All right, everyone. If that's it, no more questions, I'm gonna end this call. Thank you all for jumping on, and you know,
Thank you, Mark.
I hope this helped you guys out to launch yourselves to the next level.
Thank you, Mark.
You're welcome.
Thank
you, Mark.
Thanks, Mark. Appreciate
You
you.
got it.